Colin Harper.
If somebody had just said, "Do you know Colin Harper?" and I went, "Yes," and they said, "Describe him," I really wouldn't know where to start.
Colin Harper.
Nobody knows Colin Harper. Nobody meets Colin Harper. People encounter Colin Harper.
Colin Harper.
Polymath, self-effacing, decent skin, oddball.
Colin Harper. A few years ago.
If there's one word I can apply to Colin, it's a passion.
Colin Harper? Never heard of him.
Colin Harper? Of course I know Colin Harper.
Yeah, I think this is probably the first gig of all the legends together. I think there's going to be possibly 25 of us on stage, hopefully not at the same time.
Yeah. What's going on?
And doing different incarnations of each song.
I've been in work and I get a text or a phone call at an inappropriate time and he's got an idea in his head, you know. I'm excited normally because you just don't really know what's in front of you or who's going to be playing with you.
He has a chaotic way of working sometimes, you know, so he threw us all together and it was like, well, what's the arrangement here? What's the tempo?
You know, maybe you've had a few months of not doing music really, and you're a little bit burned out with the stuff you have been doing, and you think, oh, what the hell, let's get some guys together. Let's get the legends back together and make something.
I didn't realise it was called the Legends of Tomorrow, but apparently it was. And they asked me and about 80 other people to help.
I had been aware of Colin's work covering the Belfast music scene, so I'd met him a couple of times, and I really had no idea that he was also writing these songs. And now here I am in the middle of that, and that's a revelation.
There was a lot of people involved, as there still are, with Colin. There's always a lot of people.
I love that because you're flying by the seat of your pants. It's spontaneous.
He collects people, he brings them together, they form friendships through music.
I just knew that Colin was putting on a gig and he'd asked lots of people to play different songs in the gig that he had written, and here I am again.
Colin Harper is always trying to find some Aztec energy. It's a recurring theme. And I think he's done it with this project, The Legends of Tomorrow. He's definitely found some Aztec energy.
The calibre of people that he brings together, he knows what he's looking for, and they give it their best.
Can you get away with calling us legends when there's like 25 of us in the same room? I don't know. We're all legendary.
Any examination of Colin and the Legends of Tomorrow has to start in a bar in Belfast Docklands in the mid-90s. The bar was called the Rotterdam.
I had been aware of the Rotterdam and its importance as a live venue, as a kind of legendary bar, partly through a lot of the coverage that Colin had given it in the past in the Irish News and places like that.
The scene sort of revolved around the Rotterdam bar, and Colin Harper was sort of the guy that many of us would have seen as the leader of that particular scene at that time.
Well, Colin was part of the features of the place with the music. He was a very keen music anorak at the time and came to nearly all the gigs that we ran.
I imagine for Colin it was a place of welcome and a place of belonging.
I knew he was a music journalist, that's why at the height of it. I didn't really know him that well myself. And then he helped us organise the sessions in the warehouse that were recorded at the time, which included people who were playing in the Rotterdam regularly at the time, like Cara Dillon and Henry McCulloch.
For me, the Rotterdam and the associated warehouse was a place of great mystery and intrigue. I remember various, can it be said, lock-ins, perhaps, that happened here.
Ron Kavanagh was a great show in there. I remember one night, Ron was getting carried away, but exuberant at the end of the night, and we were running over time, and the police would have an odd look at us, you know. But it was nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, and the next thing, the blue lights arrived, and it was the Land Rover full of cops. But one of the cops was an Irish music enthusiast, and he'd heard that Ron Kavanagh was playing, and he wanted to dance. And there were lots of different kinds of music too. Mostly folk sessions at first. Bert Jansch, John Renburn, Martin Carthy.
I found Chris to be an easy person to work with. He got what it was like to be a musician. Always felt like there was a mutual understanding. He was struggling to make it. You were struggling to make it. You weren't at odds with each other, feeling like some guy's making all the dough and I'm getting nothing.
It was a place that felt real, a place that felt really welcoming, a place where you never got turned away, and a place that was about music and the crack and friendships, I suppose.
We had a lot of sessions in the Rotterdam. Chris Roddy, such an incredible man who just created so many opportunities for everybody and managed to create a magic that we still think of very fondly over 30 years later.
Tear down the place where we met. Time was a music play. The music stopped, but it's not gone yet. Don't you feel we gotta keep it alive? Can the spirit live on when the dream has died? To think that I was once a part of that scene, and now I've gone and found a silence machine. Didn't anyone say it was wrong? Thinking about the things that have gone, about the creatures of the world we live on. The book of life turned to 1844. I turned a page, but there was nothing more. 2 living creatures on a rock out on the sea. 2 living creatures in the path of history. The many ships came, they took them down. They got the money, now there's no more around. Talks an opportunity gives to be an icon in a time of great change. It's no protection when the kind hearts fail. We made the trees fall, we saw the sign. We took to living like the last of our kind. Didn't anyone say it was wrong? Yeah, when it's gone, then it's gone. To know the value of a thing when it's past, then there's just not a thing you can do about that. The soul cries, the heart yearns. The head knows there must be somewhere to turn. We got the money if we got the will, if we can make the wheels of time stand still. I gave it a go, but it didn't work out. The candle burned in the sunlight. The bitterest pill leaves a taste in your mouth. It's hard to take, but that's alright.
Well, here we are at the gates of Sullivan Upper, Hollywood. I was here 1979 to 86. Was it any good? Yep, good, bad, indifferent, there was all of that. I keep in touch maybe with 2 or 3 people from that period. Seemed very important at the time. Like much else in life, it seems less important as time goes on. But the one thing that sticks in my mind was the last report I had. The headmaster wrote, "He's not going to make it," and that was all he wrote, and that haunted me for quite a number of years. And I'd think, am I a loser, you know? Especially if things go wrong in life, you think, you know, maybe I'm just no good at this, you know? And after a while, 2016, it was bothering me so much I got a PhD and thought, that'll put the bastard to bed. Not the headmaster, the demon in my head. So how did I get into writing? How did this all start? Well, all I can do to justify what I do is to think, well, you know, you're bringing some kind of pleasure to people, and you're bottling history. You're locking things down. I'm sorry?
Do you consider yourself a work man?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question. Actually, yeah, that is interesting. Gosh, well, I do what I do for a living, and if I don't do it, I don't make a living. So I suppose, yeah, I'm a solitary worker, a lone worker. I don't like people that I have to work with in conventional workplace situations because it just never works. There's always some problem. So I've always been better working on my own. I spent all my time in my early teens really hanging around a second-hand record place in Smithfield, seeing if I could find more Bert Jansch albums, more Mahavishnu albums, Jan Ackerman albums, just anything that looked interesting. And of course it made me appear to be a bit of a weirdo. But, you know, we're all weirdos really. But we all get through life somehow, don't we? And, you know, I find it a much more interesting and rich tapestry to be tapping into these moments of magic from the cultural past in the 60s and 70s especially. You know, trying to pick up the threads of those connections years later, it's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. It's like clues. It's like clues kind of left scattered around, you know, little pebbles left through a labyrinth, and you find them, you pick them up, you put them together, and, you know, you make books. Climate change, politicians, Northern Ireland politicians. Yeah, we're all kind of doomed, aren't we? So really all you can do is turn to art and entertainment, because really art is essentially pointless. But yet it's what makes us who we are. You know, nobody would wash up on a desert island with 100 other people and say, for God's sake, get me a singer-songwriter. You know, you'd want somebody who could use a fishing rod or build a hut. But nevertheless, once you've dealt with those matters, you know, art is what makes us human, really, and you just got to cling on to it. I'm not really sure what category my music is in, really. It's a mediocre Bert Jansch fan with a bit of The Who in there. And I also love the likes of Focus and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. I also love, you know, counterpoint and polyphony and sophisticated music, but I'm not very good at it. So, you know, I suppose I'm a bit of an idiot savant in that sense, or just an idiot. Well, here we are in C.S. Lewis Square in leafy East Belfast. Yeah, this is, I suppose this is where I'm from. I've never really travelled very far from East Belfast. I was born here, I live here. It's a bit of a mixed blessing coming from Northern Ireland, really, because You know, I'm a bit of a home bird. I don't like to travel, and yet the place you're born happens to be this troubled place where people have been arguing about flags and religion for hundreds of years, and you just wish it would go away. We're on our own, you know, so really the trick is not looking down. It's being on a tightrope and not looking down. That's all of life.
Where did you say you were from? I seem to know your face. You're standing in my shoes. You come to take my place. The wind grows colder still. Sun returns to shade. The world swayed on its shoulders. I'm thinking it grows ill for the promises made. I'm thinking it grows ill for the promises made. You gotta hold yourself together. You gotta stare that devil down. You gotta pray for better weather, 'cause it'll keep on coming round. $1 billion rocket. It all seems such a waste. The clue is in the name, boys. There's nothing up in space. The horsemen, they are full. Tremble in their ways. Don't you see them coming? See them coming? 'Cause I just can't hear for the noise they make. I just can't hear for the noise they make. You gotta give it all away. Like there's no tomorrow. You gotta make your choices, babe. 'Cause all the time is borrowed.
I met my heroes then. I made them all my friends. Shadows of the years gone by.
We are in my office, such as it is, and I'm doing a totally unstaged bit of typing with my one finger. I mean, I suppose, you know, in an ideal world, I would have a lovely big library with all my books and, you know, vintage magazines and so forth stored and displayed very nicely. The truth of the matter is I've got a heaving loft full of really useful boxes packed with vintage melody makers and so forth, and a room like this, my office, kind of packed with just other stuff. I mean, there's a few CDs, there's a few cassettes, there's lots and lots of vintage magazines there, some of which are very rare actually. Let's pull a couple down.
If this program's about you, we should talk about why you do what you do,
Well,
really.
it's kind of,
Because
I thought...
I get it.
Yeah, well, that's very kind of you to say so.
Well, folk music owes a great deal to academia. And your approach is academic in a good way. Colin, you are like in a class of, probably in a class of one, really. You're in your own orbit. And that's because...
But I kind of look up to Mark Lewison.
Hello, I'm Mark Lewison, and I'm a researcher, writer. My specialist subject is the Beatles. I've known Colin Harper for many years and recognise him as a very, very, very astute, very talented, astute researcher and writer.
There we go. A Time Out from 1971, which I bought specifically for a feature on Mike Westbrook, a jazz man. I was involved in an expanded reissue of Marching Song, his classic work from 1969 on Decca.
One of the early encounters I had with Colin was when he was doing deep research into the McPeak family. They appeared on a really brilliant BBC Two programme called Late Night Lineup. John Lennon was completely taken with the wonderful music of the McPeaks, and I think he talked to them and then expressed interest in learning the uilleann pipes. There are some authors who have other people do their research, and I think that's not being a proper author. Colin is one of those guys like myself who goes and does it himself, and he was in the BBC archive and got in touch with me to say, have you seen the McPeak papers? And Colin, I think, was bursting to share his McPeak discoveries with me, which included the fact that they were briefly, although a bit incoherently, represented by Apple.
I actually thought this program was about you.
Well, it kind of is, but I'm just interested in meeting people that you know, I kind of know and seeing what they.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, why
it's all about following your
so
muse,
why I agreed
you know?
why I agreed to be here today, folks, right, is because I know you because of a certain very nuanced and very specific attitude towards music. And what's interesting about that kind of music and about what you do, I think, is that the music actually owes a great deal, folk music owes a great deal to academia. And your approach is academic in a good way.
When I first met Colin, I knew by his enthusiasm that he was probably had a wider range of subject matter than just Bert, but I had no idea of the breadth of the work that he's done until very recently, about 10 minutes ago actually.
Jazz has been slashed in a major BBC radio shake-up. Out is Jazz Record Request, which has been running since 1964. Humphrey Littleton's Best of Jazz series cut by half. Folk is also affected by the new schedules.
People that care in that sort of detail about music are very important, and those who document it are vital because it needs to be pointed out. We all need to have things explained to us.
George Lewis back in town, you know. George Lewis, in a way, George Lewis was like the big Bill Broonzy of the jazz world, the trad jazz world. He was like the last living link, as most Britons thought in the 50s, to the sound of New Orleans in the 1910s, you know. He was a man who'd played with a man who played with Buddy Bolden, the mythical figure of whom there's only one photograph.
I think what people like Colin do is to elevate music to where it should be, how it should be viewed.
Lindisfarne joined The Who at an Oval charity concert. I actually, I wonder is it here? I actually recently compiled a 8 CD Lindisfarne at the BBC set, which is great fun to do. I wonder is it there?
It's interesting because I think you're drawn to a certain kind of music and a certain kind of mentality in music anyway, like you talk about
like
the lifers.
underdogs.
Yeah, you do, exactly.
I admire people who just follow their muse, who just do what
but
they
there's
do.
a romanticism in that.
I suppose there is.
All of those figures are romantic. They're all outsiders. But what's interesting is the kind of rebels. Everybody we can talk about are rebels who absolutely revere tradition.
Yeah.
So John McLaughlin, if you talk to John McLaughlin, really he wants to talk about Miles Davis.
Yeah, and John Coltrane, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really useful boxes, and they are. This is a small sample of the printed music material I've got in my loft, which is heaving, groaning under the weight of it. These are melody makers from 1953 to 57, and I collected all of this kind of stuff. I need it for research. I got fed up of flights and sleeping on floors and spending days on end at the British Library when I could really use the same amount of money over a course of 20 odd years and build up probably Ireland's largest collection of printed music matter.
Back on this, I'll think about you all. Not to say where we went wrong, I'm happy cause we tried.
First book was published in 2000 by Bloomsbury, Dazzling Stranger. Around about the same time as the first J.K. Rowling book. She got a £1,500 advance, I got £5,000. It was the only moment in history. I was wealthier than J.K. Rowling, and it's all been downhill since then.
Had my mate not said to me in 1976, I'm going to play this band, I've heard this guitar player, this folk band, and then he put on Basket of Light, we wouldn't be sitting here now. Yeah. And I wouldn't have written a lot of the songs that I've written. I might have written some other kinds of songs, but I certainly wouldn't have written the same sort of songs. And you are literally the man who wrote the book. Wow. That's very important.
Started that in the early 90s. Got waylaid by making a living writing for newspapers, and then at the end of the 90s Bert asked me would I finish it,
and I look at that book. No, honestly, I say it because I love the cover so much, and Bert was my friend, you know, so and I love that cover because it encapsulates everything about it, because he was a badass, and I'm just so glad that book exists.
Thank you.
Oh no, it's, you know, I know what it takes to do it as well.
2004, Irish Folk Trad and Blues: A Secret History, co-written with Trevor Hodgett. Then 10 years in the public sector, that was a mistake.
There's a book called Bathed in Lightning, which is a biography of John McLaughlin of Mahavishnu Orchestra. And if you look at the bibliography and the notes at the back, there's vast amounts of notes, vast amounts of clippings and stuff. He's done incredible research, and it reads like a thriller. It reads like a page turner.
maybe they don't want to read about John McLaughlin. I mean, it is a possibility.
He writes stuff like this so effortlessly, and he writes so fluently and so fluidly.
How can I not be sensitive to that? How can I not react to that? To a human being who has such dedication, because his work, his research is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. That's all I can say. Because I've been through both books. How did he come up with and find all of this, the stories and the history and the dates and the people? Phenomenal.
His knowledge, which was so intently detailed, of people like, for example, John McLaughlin and things. He wrote that Bathed in Lightning book. In fact, he got a PhD by portfolio based on his published works, which is no mean feat.
This is incarnation of passion.
Currently working on a book on Big Pete Juker, a character who wandered into the John McLaughlin tale. Absolutely no market for it, completely pointless thing to do, but so much in life is.
He was asked to do sleeve notes for John McSherry's album. John McSherry's a piper who happens to be a friend of his.
A few years ago, I asked him to write the sleeve notes to an album I was making, and he inadvertently wrote the definitive history of Irish piping.
And so he knocks up sleeve notes for the album, which then turns into this massive tome, like the go-to reference book on Irish piping, on uilleann pipes.
I didn't even know really that Colin wrote songs for a long time. When I first met Colin, it was as a journalist, and I knew this journalist guy, and he wrote for the Irish News, and he was a very good writer. You could tell what I would call a proper journalist.
I found in the 90s that it took ages to get into a newspaper, and you did it by sweet-talking editors, by forming a relationship over many rejected phone calls, and eventually you got in, and when you got in, that person then moved on in 6 months, but you were part of the furniture, so you were there for the next editor and the next and the next.
Colin was sitting around, we're having lunch and stuff, and Colin says, hey, why don't I write a review about your record? And he sent it to Hot Press, and next thing it's a double-page spread with photos in the Hot Press. And I'm going, oh my goodness, and that's what actually got me a management deal in Dublin off the back of that.
I've always written about people who are outsiders and people on the margins, people in the footnotes, interesting characters with interesting stories to tell, and they're never people that have been written about 100 times before. You're always picking up stones to find what else is there.
I have to say this, without Colin Harper, I literally wouldn't have got even off the ground.
A bloke at Q magazine rang me and said, do you want to write about folk music for us? And I made myself an expert in folk music. Well, enough of an expert in folk music for that purpose. And that kind of opened up all kinds of other writing for record labels, writing for magazines, Q, Mojo, writing for newspapers, the Irish Times, the Independent, the Irish News, lots of foreign magazines. And sooner or later it kind of all became a living, and it was a better living than hanging around White Abbey in the middle of the night pressing buttons.
My mum, only a few years ago, and bear in mind I'm somebody who has now written 6 books, she actually said to me 3 or 4 years ago, it's a shame you never did anything with your history degree. I'm thinking, what the hell? But you know what, I suppose what she meant was, it's a shame you didn't become a history teacher.
and I wished him well. He played that guitar just like ringing a bell. But what else can you do when the crowd gets thin? You're giving it all out and nothing's coming in. You keep on rocking like the people say, but they don't see the way the music world has changed. And who knows who's to blame? When color turns to gray, when youth is slipped away, raise a proud toast to those young pioneers.
Well, the first band that I remember being in school was with a certain Mr. Colin Harper. It was a lot of fun. We made various recordings which normally wouldn't have seen the light of day, but I remember Colin bringing out a box set of about 8 cassettes, archiving all kinds of rehearsals, outtakes, demos. They were all kind of really demos. And then also extensive sleeve notes about said demos, rehearsals and outtakes. And it was really quite remarkable.
Archiving projects, I suppose it all started in 1992. Demon Records, maybe I contacted them or they no, I contacted them. I was working in a go-nowhere job. It was a night shift. During the day, I was ringing around various record labels saying, you guys need to reissue some Bert Janschen Pentangle music on CD. It was the very start of the CD era. And I got a few people interested in doing that. Virgin, Demon, Windsong. And, you know, I was involved in bringing a lot of music from the Transatlantic Records back catalogue, including Jansch, Pentangle, etc., onto CD for the first time.
This is another unboxing video, kind of. This time it's about Bert Jansch.
It did stretch. It was a project that did stretch for various reasons. You know, some behind the scenes.
I think you said half a week. I think it was about 1.5 years, this one, was it?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Whenever you say weeks, I hear years.
What else? Madfish, a company that does colossal box sets. 33-disc Horselips box set last year. Repertoire did a lot of stuff for them. Again, more box sets, you know, Pretty Things at the BBC, Duffy Power, Ian Carr's Nucleus at the BBC, Barbara Thompson, you know, British jazz, British rock. Lindisfarne, 8 CD set for them.
Colin Harper, enthusiasm. The thing I really like about Colin, he doesn't mind going into the most minute detail on bands and artists where he's got such passion for. And he wants to produce a lovely piece of art that the fans will go, wow, this is fantastic. This is all I need from this band.
The last project of any significance that I will do will be this Mahavishnu Orchestra box set.
The Mahavishnu Orchestra Mark 1 set, he did all the groundwork to that and sent it over to me to see if we could take it forward. I thought it was a brilliant idea. We've since been in touch with the respective musicians within the band who are all on board. Colin put all that together and presented it to me as a viable proposition, and we're hopefully going to run with it.
My days are full, and in between time, I'm archiving for Ian. But I mean, I'm going through hundreds of tapes.
When I get the music from John, I will send it to Colin for him to go through.
Anyway, I'm getting through it, and probably sometime in mid-January, I'll send him off, 10, 20 kilos of tapes and stuff, and I think he will be cursing my grandmother, you know.
tapes from John McLaughlin. I'm going to take these straight to Cormac's studio. If 40 years ago someone had told the kid rummaging around in record shops in Belfast looking for Mahavishnu Orchestra records from the ancient world, i.e. 10 years before, that 40 years later he'd be working on a colossal box set of that very same act, he wouldn't have believed you, but he'd have been very happy about it.
Gonna take the lead from my shoes, gonna fly away. Gonna find a place where I can't lose, gonna find a way. Gonna go where eagles go, gonna shed this far too heavy load. Gonna bring the sun to my heart, gonna find the key. Gonna see the dream ship start for you and me. Gonna go where Alice goes, gonna find a place to heal my soul. Gonna find the wondrous place, gonna leave behind the things that I can't face, gonna free my mind. Gonna go where the music plays, gonna see the green hills far away. I'm free at last, free, free. I'm free at last, free, free. I'm free at last, free, free. I'm free, 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 I'm free at last. 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 Gonna find a field of dreams for a place to stay. Gonna find a heart of gold and give it away. Gonna climb the tree of life. Gonna find a way to make it right. Make it right. Make it
Nothing is easy, and it really isn't. This is something I did in 1997 with 33 of my closest associates. We called ourselves the Legends of Tomorrow. We didn't think it would last. It was a bit of fun. And somehow all this other stuff happened in the intervening years.
I gave it a go, but it didn't work out. A candle burned in the sunlight.
Colin's songs are remarkable. They're full of metaphors and full of history and historical references.
Do you see a golden haze? Do you know where?
A song about the Rotterdam bar and its closing down somehow marks into the end of the Great Auk in 1844. Not too many other songwriters are doing that. There's probably a reason for that too, but it's brilliant.
He's so musical and he's such a good player, and he wouldn't tell you about any of this. You would never find out any of this from Colin. I worked in radio, and some years ago this album came in from Colin called Titanium Flag, one of my absolute favourite pieces of music.
I've been writing about ecological matters for, 15, 20 years. And it caused me pain then, still does.
Encapsulates a mood, it encapsulates, I don't know what, it's just glorious. And it goes all over the place, it's not classifiable.
It touches on unpleasant events, I suppose, Russian nuclear tests and the planting of a titanium flag on the seabed at the North Pole by the Russian government 10 or 15 years ago. That seemed a rather symbolic event. God, it never ends well, does it? I was thinking yesterday, is there anything that connects us? I think it's that we both value friendship and humanity ahead of success. I think it's all about people.
Oh yeah, of course it's all about people. And
it's all the journey, isn't it?
And of course our mutual admiration for the music of John McLaughlin.
Well, yes.
This was
absolutely
a subject of kind of that brought us together.
To me, your music is up there and mine is so down there as to be almost irrelevant. The thing we have in common, I think, is that you just follow your muse and you do what you do. I'm not a professional musician. I have other things I do, the books, the proofreading, the box sets, all of this stuff. But anytime I feel the muse tap me on the shoulder, it's like, okay, well, let's do it. It's like you're in service to something. It has to be done, even if it's my inconsequential level or your sort of National Concert Hall level. It's still the same impetus, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you see, the discovery for me is that there really aren't levels in music so much. I don't think of it that way. What makes a piece of music speak is something much deeper than what your fingers do. It's not about what your fingers and hands create on an instrument. It's about allowing intangibles, to be a part of music making, to be a part of the experience of music.
As curious and odd a thing as it is, you were and are still a member of the Legends of Tomorrow. So onwards we say.
Onwards and upwards. We'll check in again another 30 years, see how we're doing.
Thank you, Martin. Well, if I was asked for a list of those who've been in the Legends of Tomorrow, I possibly wouldn't be able to complete that list because it's a long one, maybe 80 to 90 people, friends, cronies and associates. Just sometimes people you think they're the right person for this job, somebody who owns an instrument and has the right kind of spirit, It's not always about virtuosity, it's often about spirit.
empty, they got a shed, and it needs heating. Come to us, we're either stupid or we're cheating. Calling out the politicians on the road to perdition. Calling out the politicians, they got no contrition. Premium professionals, you've had your day. We're sick and tired of places creepy holidays. We're sick and tired of money going up in flames. COVID millions to a list of random names. Calling out the politicians on the road to perdition. Calling out the politicians on tenable positions. For the job, we all know it, I just said it. They're a black coat for public cash, and all the wrong guys get it. They're an indictment of a region's fear to move away from tribal demographics. They're a consequence of holding dear worn-out grudges and one-way traffic. Every day, turn off the TV, they're a disgrace. Stop their poison from clogging up your headspace. Make some money, give it away to help the planet live to see another day. Rise above it, but let's forget these stupid people racking up their comic dead. Calling out the politicians, they got no contrition.
Everyone who's achieved greatness is an expert, and the great thing about being an expert is that if you don't become rich and famous, when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're still an expert.
Well, it's an interesting way to look at it. All right, yeah, I suppose I just do feel there is.
Take the compliment, Colin.
Well, thank you.
I'm a non-entity, you know. It may be that nobody wants to hear what I've got to say, and that's okay, you know.
If you want to talk about a person who actually carries the values of the religion he walked away on, that's Colin Harper. And he doesn't do it through words or trying to get you to change your mind. He does it through continually self-sacrificing giving to other people, and that's a beautiful thing.
He in many ways devoted himself to the local music scene to help us and to promote us and to give a platform, and without even mentioning that he was his own songwriter was in hindsight quite a bizarre and selfless thing to do.
He's a great supporter of musicians and great encourager.
Yes.
And he has an encyclopedic knowledge.
There's nobody like him.
Just about every kind of music.
Colin is someone who encourages me all the time to make sure I keep going, to make sure that I've still got some food on my plate at the end of the day.
David Attenborough couldn't describe Colin Harper's laugh. It's disturbing. It's unnatural. It's inappropriate, and it just takes over the whole room, doesn't it? Yeah.
Why shouldn't I be the one? Why shouldn't I?